Hello, welcome.
Everybody good?
Come on in. As folks come on in, we're just going to kind of wait for the room to fill, and then we'll get started and try and be right on time just to be respectful of the schedule today. So thank you for everybody that showed up a little bit early. And yeah, we're going to get started shortly. Tara, you just let me know when it's a good time to kick it off. I'm admitting all these folks. All right. I think it's polite in Zoom world to give everybody just like a minute just to make sure that they can connect. Thankfully, I've had the opportunity to be a Zoom DJ since a little bit before for a while now. I call it being a Zoom DJ when you're letting folks in and you're making sure everybody's messages get to you. And so, awesome. Okay. So hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. I am coming to you from Florida. I also am here because I worked for 5 years at the B Corp Uncommon Goods. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but it's one of the founding B corporations. And so spending some time with Uncommon Goods definitely enamored me to the B Corp community. And I was in human resources. Funnily though, I started off as a merchant. So I was out there helping to find the uncommon goods. And then I really fell in love with the people part of the company. And so I pivoted into human resources. And so I have a lot of fun stories to tell from the ground of being an everyday employee to then being in human resources and being in really interesting meetings with senior folks and my peers. And so I was really grateful that I was asked to be here to help facilitate this portion of the programming. And so I want to just get started right away and introduce you to Sean, who is coming to you from Ben & Jerry's. Sean, why don't you share a little bit more about yourself and tell all of these folks who you are and what your involvement with Ben & Jerry's has been.
Thanks, Tanya. Yeah, it's been great getting to know you recently. Yeah, a little bit about myself is my name's Sean Seltzer. I work for Team Boston at Ben & Jerry's. So really quick, right before I talk a little bit about myself, I do work for a Ben & Jerry's franchise and not corporate. So, you know, everything that I say might be slightly off from what corporate has to do. We have a little bit more flexibility because we don't have as tight of overseeing, but I'm from Burlington, Vermont. So I did start with corporate. And then when I moved to Boston, I joined the Boston franchise, which has been super fun. So here in Boston, we have 5 full-time scoop shops: Newberry Street, Seaport, Prudential Center, Faneuil Hall, and now Watertown, just outside of Boston. And we also have a seasonal aquarium kiosk, as well as a full-time catering business. I've been with the company since 2009, and I think right when I started with corporate is when I really fell in love with our social mission, and coming to Boston just strengthened that.
Awesome. So yeah, I think you just touched on it a little bit, but what it is, you've been there since 2009. That's a really long time, Sean. That's a really awesome milestone. So tell us more about why you've been there for that much time.
Yeah, so I mean, I started as a scooper and now I'm general manager. I mostly oversee our Watertown shop and our catering business. And I do a little bit of our marketing, but you know, when I first joined at corporate, that's when I learned about the fair trade movement. I got a little bit involved there. But then when I came to Boston, um, corporate really only owns the Watertown factory and the Church Street shop. Those are their two main locations. 95% of the shops are all franchises, which a lot of people don't know. And some franchises really struggle with incorporating the social mission, but here in Boston, we've actually just built it into our system. So coming here really strengthened just seeing all the different events that we do, tying back to our community. And that's a big reason I'm here. If it wasn't for all the community involvement that we're in, I wouldn't be here. And also without a great franchisee who is very supportive of the staff inside and outside the shops is also why I remain here.
That was one of the fun things that I learned when I met you, was all of the different ways that your location has been super involved. And so I'm really excited to share that with this group today. It definitely kept me, my mind just like whirling about all of the different places you've been able to extend the social mission component of Ben & Jerry's. And so I just wanted to first take everybody back in, keeping in theme with pivoting for resilience. I know a lot of us know about something really interesting that happened last year and that really impacted a lot of the businesses that we all serve and work for and work with. And so I just wanted to hear from your viewpoint of exactly what happened in the Ben & Jerry's business last year, and how does it compare to what you were expecting?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just going to start a little bit with 2019. 2019, we opened up a shop in Faneuil Hall. For those not in Boston or not quite familiar, Faneuil Hall is the biggest tourist area in Boston. One site that we're looking at for foot traffic said that's the 12th heaviest foot traffic spot in the world, more than the Eiffel Tower. So
yeah, that blows my mind.
When we were trying to open there, I heard that every day talking to new staff members. So it got ingrained in my mind. And, I'll take that with a grain of salt, but it's nice to know that's a very busy location. So we opened that, ended up being our busiest shop that summer. We had about close to 100 people on staff in 2019 during peak season in the summertime. Catering was booming. We were doing 3 to 9 events a day. And we had all this like expansion plans for growth. We're going into 2020 with a really strong management team. And we're expecting it to be, our best year ever. And we lots of positive energy going into 2020. I'm not going to recap too much of 2020 because we all know what happened. A lot of businesses shut down for a while. We shut down for about 3 months. We were in the middle when the shutdown happened, building out a new shop in Watertown. So Watertown is our newest shop. And when we came back, Watertown was actually the first shop that we opened. But yeah, so part of that was stuff that I didn't realize about Boston, because about the amount of community work and the regulars I see and the regular catering clients I have. Our sales cut about 75% last year. So we really lost a lot of sales. I realized Boston isn't as much of a community-based city as I thought it might be. It was really driven by students, office workers, and tourism. And when all those things aren't in the city, no one's really in the city. So our staff was cut dramatically from about 90 to 100 staff members the year before to about 40, 45. And yeah, as we reopened all of our shops and invited all the staff to return, many didn't return. No judgment whether or not they wanted to stay on unemployment. Some of them had immunocompromised families, and they really couldn't join because different nerves. Everyone deals with stress differently. Everyone had different comfort levels throughout this whole time. So there really wasn't. We really couldn't blame anyone if they wanted to not come back. So we didn't have all the hours that we had in the past, but yeah, so it looked rough. There weren't really any catering events. Again, I said we had in the past 3 to 9 events a day. We were down to, I think our busiest week, we had 5 events that week, not in a day, but just 5 events. So, the catering business was really hurt too. It wasn't a fun year to work.
And that's so different from where I was sitting in Brooklyn, where Uncommon Goods is headquartered. Our business overnight got busier. Everyone went home and started shopping like crazy online. And so we actually got way busier. And I was in HR, thankfully, because I got to take a lot of my solution-oriented hustle skills that I picked up being a buyer, and we had to figure out overnight just how to support our growing business needs, but also support our staff first and foremost. And so it blows my mind kind of the numbers that you were dealing with and then the numbers that we were dealing with and what that looked like for both of us. And so I want to know more about kind of what it is that we're never going to see. And I say it like that because many of us had projects that we were working on. Many of us had things in the pipeline that we were super excited about, especially being a part of a big corporation. You have a lot of goals and a lot of things that you've just started working on. Maybe you started gaining some momentum and then March happened, right? Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to learn more about what those things were that we'll never see. Like, what are those things that you had in the pipeline that we'll never see come into fruition? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I really want to talk about, again, the Watertown shop did open. It just wasn't what we expected, but one of the big things, and again, one of the big reasons why I'm still here is I'm involved with a lot of our social mission work. So in 2019, we hosted a prison reform event. I brought together 4 different organizations from the local Boston area to talk a little bit about what they do in regards to prison reform, which is they all had different topics. And ideally to give our audience and our fans a way to connect, hear a different organization story, and maybe get involved. That was the goal. We do these events from time to time, and it usually about 20 to 40 people will show up to these events, which is great. But yeah, this time around, we had a lot of interest. A lot of people wanted to come and bring friends. We had over 200 people show up, which made it so we didn't. Yeah, we had to move the event outside. We had just launched the Flavor Justice Remix, which was all about prison reform initiatives. So, at the corporate level, they're working in Miami to get more counselors in schools and less police officers. They're working in St. Louis to shut down a workhouse prison. But on the local level, we always try to take a global brand and localize it. That's our goal. Again, trying to get these community members and hear what's actually happening in Boston and what people can actually do to get involved. So giving away ice cream is always a great way to start those conversations. So that's what we were doing. And, it had such a big impact. I ended up winning an award with corporate for, they call it the Ampersand Award. And that was about, a manager taking on all the social mission activism on their own. I'm only the 3rd person to receive it. So that was a great feeling, but we want to do more of these type of events to connect our fans with more community organizations. I was talking about what keeps me here a few minutes ago. Not only that, but in Boston, it's easy for Ben & Jerry's to reach out to Ben & Jerry's and try to get a donation. A lot of people know that we're very progressive and a lot of different organizations align with our values, but one of the big things I think separates us from a lot of other companies is here in Boston, we like to not just give a donation, one-off donation. We do those, it's very easy for us to do, but we like to try to form these long-term relationships with organizations too. So ideally, it's not just a one-off donation. Hopefully we're doing donations every year. Hopefully we're going in and scooping at some of these events and helping see where they need help to help drive people there. If ice cream is going to help drive more people in attendance, we definitely want to see these organizations get more attendance. So awesome. That was the goal of this prison reform event.
Sadly, and so you know what I want to ask, like, then what happened?
Yeah, sadly in 2020, we for months kept bringing up, what can we do? It's election year, maybe we do something about voting rights. And every idea we had, we all liked it, but we're trying to figure out the ways around having people in the shop, social distancing. Is there a way that we do it for like 3 hours and have 5 people come at a time? Like it just didn't seem plausible. So it was a little defeating, but then we got the idea to take this virtually and just go online. I know that we are all probably familiar with this concept. Many people pivoted to virtual, but again, that opened up our platform, our social media platform, specifically Instagram is our best platform. So we get typically between 200 to 500 impressions on each thing that we post. So that's potentially 500 people seeing this post, maybe sharing it if it's something they're passionate about, and just giving some of these people that might have a smaller voice a larger voice. So my favorite, it wasn't our first one, but we tied it in a couple days right before the national election, was local city council member Julia Mejia. Her story is very unique. She actually tied and went to a runoff vote, and she won by literally 1 vote. So, you know, hearing her story, hearing that literally that last vote mattered, your vote matters, especially locally, hearing resources, how to get voting information from her, you know, that was a really big and impactful moment to hear. So over the past year, we've interviewed a bunch of different local organizations and local city council members. It was just about reaching out and asking, seeing if they were interested, and ideally, you know, bring some of their fans into our brand stuff. But again, tying this global company into a local setting.
That's awesome. And I'm going to definitely share some links with everybody towards the end of our conversation today. And we're going to take a break in a little bit for any questions anybody has. But before we jump into our break, I just want to know more about, you know, the thing I think that makes it possible that you were able to jump into these initiatives so fast. And it wasn't just overnight, you know, that you could just start identifying these as who you were. It's a part of the Ben & Jerry's DNA. And so I know that you have more organizations that you fostered relationships with, and I just wanted to take a second to talk about those and share those with everybody, and then making sure to leave everybody with some helpful links so that they could do a little bit more investigating on their own if they'd like.
Yeah, so, you know, another one that's really was a really great talk that we had was with Jumpstart. It's actually not released yet. Hopefully next couple of weeks we get that released. Business is doing well, so I haven't had time to edit these as much. And they're just quick edits too. But Jumpstarts, again, they had a flavor, the Liz Lemon Greek yogurt flavor several years ago with corporate. Tina Fey's flavor, she wanted to support Jumpstart. Jumpstart was ecstatic. But we interviewed them because they're located in Boston too. And just through the talk, it became apparent that, hey, things are starting to reopen. Maybe we can do an in-shop event and try to, you know, partner more than just this conversation. Like literally their headquarters is right across from one of our shops. So this fall, we're probably going to have some of their team members come in, like read books to kids. We're working on a couple details right now, but that's one of my favorites. And, you know, voting is a really important thing. Talking about growing relationships. Some of my favorite relationships that I was able to foster. Several years ago, Ben & Jerry's asked Headcount, national organization, to come do some canvassing at our Boston shops for free cone day. You know, big line, good people to get through. We're kind of on the same brand. You know, went well, and we traded contact info, and I had an idea to bring them one year to the Boston University campus. We'd give out free ice cream for a couple hours. They would help get students voting information, whether it's changing of address, register to vote. clarifying anything that they might have questions on. A lot of people are from out of state and they don't know if they're eligible, when the deadlines are. After we did that first one, it went really well. We gave away, I think, 300 scoops of ice cream. Head count typically at a big concert for like 5,000 people will get maybe 10 people to register to vote. They typically walk away from these events getting 30 or 40 people and about 100 people signing up for voting information, like reminders to change your address, reminders to register. So not everyone will activate, but at least it gives it a chance. At this point, we don't really have to ask headcount to be a part of it. We just tell them when the event's happening and they make sure to send a couple people. And now they actually email us as well, asking hey, this is coming up. There's an election. I don't know if you're aware. It's a local one. Could we do some canvassing or work on an event together? And I'm typically absolutely is my answer. So it's been really great to slowly grow and foster this relationship over the last 5 years. So yeah, that's one of my favorites that I've helped grow.
Awesome. I want to just take a break before we hop into the last portion of our chat together. Did anybody have any questions or any comments that they'd like to share? You're welcome to unmute and also put it in the chat for us.
I saw someone say they live in Watertown. I mean, one thing we might talk about in a minute, but I'll just talk about it right now. We are currently doing every Saturday community celebrations with local art vendors and local music 2 to 5. There are a couple of shops on the Cape. The Ben Jerry's Boston Instagram handle is at Ben Jerry Boston. But yeah, I'll take a quick minute to talk about the Watertown stuff since it's our newest shop and you live here. So I do want to make it a little bit relevant. Several of our team members started making a web series that was collaborating and connecting music and art together. So, once we learned about that, we, asked them if they would be willing to try to get some of these artists and some of these musicians to come play our Watertown shop. And we got approval from City Council. So, taking ideas that our team's already doing and seeing how we can give them a bigger platform too for what they're doing. Now it's branded as SRS events, which is their web series. They can promote the series there. And now they have a live version of it too. It's very exciting that we're able to help out our team members like this as well.
And actually that's a good segue into my next question for you, Sean. I want to know more about how you're supporting your team members and what you did in supporting morale, because it sounds like there's a lot happening, or usually there's a lot happening that brings people together and brings community together, and there's a lot that you all do as a team. And so how did you just get the people behind, all of these great projects through last year?
Yeah, so, one thing that we do, I don't know if it's special, but I think it's a little bit special is, anyone can really scoop ice cream. This is a lot of people's first job or their second job or their college job, just to get a few bucks to go party. We understand that, we realize that, but if we get 20 applications, we could do just a quick interview to make sure they seem like they're reliable and they probably won't quit on us and just hire a bunch of bodies. But we end up doing longer 30, 40-minute interviews a lot of the time because we're not just looking for people that can do the job. We're hiring not bodies, but we're hiring people. We want good personalities that fit in. One of my favorite examples of this is we had this one girl a few years ago. It was midsummer. She applied and we didn't really have a position available. We did the interview, just maybe add on an extra staff member or two since she was going to be there in the fall, which is when we lose a lot of staff. And, it was her first job, but she was super bubbly, super friendly. And we knew based off her age, it might take a little bit longer training, a little bit more corrections and coaching, but she seemed very nice. We wanted to give her a chance. And we thought she'd bring a positive attitude midsummer and, rejuvenate the team a little bit. And yeah, she was awesome. She was great. She ended up staying with us for about 3.5, 4 years. But I learned about a year into it that a lot of times her friends would make fun of her. She did come from a wealthy family and none of her friends worked, and they make fun of her for having a job when she was just trying to build her interpersonal skills. So like, a lot of times we think of people with a little bit unfortunate backgrounds, but even some people, I just don't understand how someone could get made fun of for wanting to work and wanting to put an extra effort.
I don't understand that either.
So anyways, that was a kind of shocking revelation to hear. But, a lot of our team members stay on for 3-4 years throughout college. I think that shows the culture that we've created here at Ben & Jerry's. Throughout the pandemic, all the managers stayed in touch with their teams, reached out if they were thinking about team members or, funny little clips, or just checked in, see how people are doing. Once we reopened, one of the big things that we did is, we didn't reopen all of our shops all at once. Ben & Jerry's in Boston was actually one of the first shops, franchises to close, and we're one of the last ones to reopen. We really want to take the staff into consideration first, and their comfort levels. So we started by opening our brand new Watertown shop, partly because it was more of a community-based shop. It's not in the city. There is a vibrant community there. Also, people might not be as afraid to go into a shop that's in more of a community than in a big city. People probably weren't ready to come back to the city just yet. But then our 4 shops in the city, we opened them once every week or 2 weeks. We sent 3 or 4 people in at a time to help clean, organize, put in new infrastructure to make it feel safe. And, really took our time opening shops. And so we would do, first off, check-ins when we reopen shops, see how people felt, if everyone felt safe. We really wanted to make sure that everyone did, especially our team members that had family members that are immunocompromised. They were some of our key people, because if they were compromised themselves, or a family member that lived in the household was, and they felt safe working with us, we felt a lot more comfortable being there and putting them in that situation, dealing with the public. So I think we did a good job with that and did a lot of check-ins. But I honestly feel like last summer, my job was more so, I didn't quite care as much about sales. Like, I think as a shop manager, I probably was a 6 out of 10, but as a...
That's so honest of you.
It's all about honesty. Like, if I were just to, no, we did awesome, we did amazing, like, everyone can give that talk, but I'd rather give you guys the truth than a fake talk. But
I appreciate that.
I think 6 out of 10, tensions were high, and people weren't doing their best. Stress levels were all over the place depending on how comfortable different people were. I always take it heart and think everyone's trying to do their best. It might not meet my standards sometimes, but I don't think anyone's maliciously going after each other. So that's one thing that I've always kind of been a motto of mine. Everyone's trying their best. Everyone's best is a little bit different. But I think we were all really a 10 out of 10 and checking in with each other, asking everyone every shift, hey, are you doing okay? Like, what's on your mind? Is this stressing you out? Being really good about if people had leave or didn't feel comfortable working, totally understanding, checking in, talking with them. Again, everyone's at different levels. We had to really take a step back. And with that, the team was really supportive and really willing to pick up, when people went into quarantine, because a lot of our staff is high school kids that continued playing sports and had to quarantine because of sports. Everyone was very supportive and picked up shifts whenever people went into quarantine. Luckily, there weren't any cases at our shops. So I think, that also shows that we're doing a great job. But yeah, having that very supportive team, I think really did a lot there.
Well, and I think that also speaks to the care of hiring people, not bodies. And people are complex. And I definitely spent a lot of time being really creative in supporting the team. And when I left Uncommon Goods, I had a very supportive team who understood that I wanted to be close to family. which is why I decided to up and leave Brooklyn. But I will never forget all of the hard days that I went through. And I feel like it builds you in where you have this morale around like we survived.
One more comment about the team is, I feel like I just talked about a lot of really harsh stuff, lots of check-ins, a lot of team members not coming back, kind of like the scary part of last year. But, with about half our team not coming back and choosing to leave for different reasons, it's we were somewhat surprised because it seemed like a lot of our team, they were done. They finished their summer job or whatnot. We had team members come back this year that we thought we'd never hear from again. Team members from like 2 or 3 years ago that have left and moved on to greater, better things, have come back looking for part-time work too. So, it's really positive seeing how much our team still cares and connects with each other. I just have one other story about, team and building a community within shop. We talk about a lot about culture, but, community does come in the shop too. Talking about some of our team members at one point, they're getting into making t-shirts and design their own shirts. Our franchisee reached out to them about it. He was very supportive. We're always supportive inside and outside of shop work, trying to do that work-life balance. He ended up buying them $1,000 worth of shirts to pursue their goals. With our connections of getting cheaper rates, we were able to help them out and just be supportive. And that's why I chose to wear a t-shirt, is one of the designs they made for us for a special event, for a one-day event in Boston. If anyone from corporate's on this call, I don't think they approved it, or knew about it, but we just did it for one day and, gave out to our leadership team in the shop. So they're happy to do that as a thank you for all the support we gave them.
That's awesome. And I want to just make sure you've shared a lot with us. So tell me, let's just recap really quickly some of the key takeaways of kind of what last year and what you were able to accomplish given the cards that you held last year, your key takeaways that you want to make sure to share with this group.
Yeah, it seems like I talked a lot about hiring. So, hire people, not bodies. They say a lot of times people leave jobs not because it's a bad job, but it's bad management. So definitely focus on your internal culture and building that community and that foundation right there. It's also important to build community and grow your social goals too. That's going to lead to more revenue. That's going to lead to them opening up more opportunities for you to maybe do more community events or a bigger audience that you might not have reached if you didn't have that conversation or helped out with that community event. Great part about 2021 is events are coming back. Red Sox are back in town. My Bruins sadly won't be in town till the fall. We're going to be scooping at some concerts this summer. The city is starting to come back. And so as events are coming back, that means that I can do what I'm passionate about here and I can do more community events now. Again, they'll help bring in some sales, but a lot of this is just getting back out there and starting to rebuild some of those relationships. Talking about that too, I talked about the prison reform event that I put on just because I thought it was really important at the time. Don't just dream, but also share. Dream big and share loud. That's definitely something that I'd like to touch on. One, you never know who also has the same ideals as you. You also don't know who might have connections for you. I have this one story. A handful of years ago, I used to live in Quincy, and they had free recycling for the city. A lot of people didn't know that, but you just had to go to City Hall. They gave you a $5 voucher to buy a bin, and they gave you stickers to put on the bin to make it a recycling bin. So you had to buy your own bin, but they had everything to make it free. So I had the idea, I was going to try to get, at least for my neighborhood, some bins. I started talking to my roommate one day at a bar about this, and he thought it was a good idea, and our bartender just started talking to us like, hey, I overheard you. That's a great idea. My day job is actually working for City Hall. I can connect you to the right person. So again, always share your ideas. You never know who has similar ideas and who might be able to help you achieve your goals.
Absolutely. And a lot, just like you, I mean, I know a lot of us here have goals and are really passionate about not just the companies we're affiliated with, but I think it comes from an authentic place of really wanting to move people, planet forward. And so how would you recommend, you do a lot, you've done a lot, Sean. So how do you recommend all of us get started if there's something that we're super passionate about, like just what's worked for you? Because I come to these events to information share, to just always be learning, to make connections. I love coming to these programs too, because I just learn so much that I take back and I am able to share with companies that I'm affiliated with. So what do you recommend for all of us?
I definitely recommend for this event specifically, definitely network. I know there's different opportunities to talk. I'm someone that usually is a little more quieter in networking events. I just listen and absorb, but I'm also happy to share if people ask me questions. I'm sharing right now. I was asked to be here. But overall, I'm definitely more of a doer. I don't like sitting in a meeting, planning. I'm happy to have that first one and share some ideas, but I don't want to have 5 meetings to plan before executing. I'm more of a out there and go-getter. So one thing that I've taken on recently within the Ben & Jerry's community is talking about 2020 and things that we wish to happen. Corporate was going to launch a change makers program, which was to find people in scoop shops like me who would really want to make change in their community and, help find ways to develop them and give them answers to how they can do work in their community. And it didn't really happen. Everything about last year made it tough, just like in my community, to do these type of events and that type of work. But it's been relaunched this year. I'm one of the people that I'm helping relaunch it. And so again, we expected 10 to 20 people maybe would join. We had 45 people join. So this month, small groups, breakouts, just same groups talking about how we can do change. And some people have been with the company for a year. Some people have been with the company for 2 weeks as of last week. So, it's all over the place and trying to get them involved. But one of the best things about this whole Changemakers program is the Story of Stuff has a great survey. That's the Changemaker quiz that kind of shows what your best role is in helping be an activist. Like, again, we're all doers. When I first took the quiz about a year ago, I was a investigator, and I still stand by it. I think I still am an investigator. I like to do photography as a hobby, and when I go looking at a new camera, a new lens, I spend 6 months watching YouTube videos about it, reading tons of reviews. I definitely investigate a lot before I pull the trigger on buying. But I just took it a couple of weeks ago because I knew I wanted to talk about here. And I came up as a nurturer, which interesting that my role changed a little bit, but with all the, being shop cheerleader and cheering everyone inside and outside work and check-ins, making sure everyone's okay this past year, I understand why that probably happened. But, it can change over time. I don't think one category fits everyone, but I think this is a great way to kind of see what you are a little bit more, what's your best effort in helping?
Yeah, I took it. I'm a communicator. So that checks because
That checks.
that checks. And I definitely am looking forward to taking it again, maybe like 6 months. And I want to just thank you for sharing that with us, because definitely seeing where your strengths are can help you kind of navigate the landscape of pushing the things that you care about forward in the most effective way. But does anybody have any additional questions? I want to make sure that you all get a chance to ask them while we're here. Does anybody have any questions or comments or anything that you'd like us to elaborate on? And we're being told that, should we wrap it up? Tara?
Well, I guess, we talked a little bit about all this. I definitely want to leave on at least one fun fact about Ben and Jerry's. We talk a lot about social mission stuff. A couple other organizations that we work with in Boston we've had a long-term relationship with ARC, Art Resource Collaborative for Kids. So we're typically donating people to come scoop at their gala, donating Sunday prizes at their gala. We have an event coming up with them soon. We've had a long-term relationship with Spalding Rehab, which both myself and my boss have known people that have gone through there. And they just do great work and really help cheer people up there going through a rough time in rehab. Like, they do really great work. We also work with the National Center for Race Amity. And all these relationships came from just networking at different events and thinking that they have great ideas, great causes. We would love to keep doing that, keep supporting these type of events.
Awesome. And I just shared a couple links about some of the causes that you shared with us earlier in our chat. Again, I encourage everybody to take that quiz and see where your strengths are. I definitely found myself in a lot of rooms I did not expect to be in. So when I got communicator, I was like, that totally makes sense, because I found myself from being a buyer, just buying merchandise and dealing with only vendors at Uncommon Goods, to being in the room with senior leaders and the CEO and chatting about all sorts of things that sometimes I would just be like, what am I doing here? But it was some of the best learning. And also it just shows how these big organizations, just like Ben and Jerry's, take the time to really hear from so many different people about what's important and ways to be effective in moving their businesses forward and being a force for good. So with that, Sean, thank you. It's been so fun hearing about all the things that you've been able to do, and it's been so fun being connected to all of you from Florida. Thanks for having us. And if there's no other questions, I think that, you're very welcome. I think the next thing is to let everybody know that, are those birthday cakes as good as they look?
They definitely are. They're my nephew's favorite thing for me to bring for their birthdays.
Oh, nice. I've been eating a lot of ice cream personally. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you back in the main room. And feel free to connect with each other, connect with me. And I hope to see you all soon on these internet streets, if not in person.
Yeah, thanks for having me, everyone. And thanks again for, connecting. If anyone wants to connect or ask questions later, I'm always happy to hop on the phone or send messages in this meeting. Can't wait to connect throughout the rest of the week when I can.
Nice.